Do you adopt this philosophy now? Do you say these things a bit more blunt so that you can be that person you wanted?
So it's actually amazing. I want to do that, and I am more blunt. But I have realized that the entrepreneurs I have been most blunt with, कि buddy, what you are saying does not make sense, and this has challenges. Those people have built the largest companies, and I can afford to do it better than the founder as well, because founder has only one company. I have so many companies that it's worth it for other people to talk to me better, because
by the virtue of the role that you play. In terms of Nexus specifically, if someone wants to understand what is your approach, कि हम एक founder में क्या देखते हैं, हम उसके business में क्या देखते हैं, what is the mindset that you bring, what are the questions that you ask these people. I want to get a sense of how you think and how your first interaction with the founder looks like.
But you know that you want to work with someone, because when you meet him, you know that he's a force of nature. She is a force of nature.
That's how you would describe someone. What does the first meeting with a founder look like? What should they have clarity on, and what is it okay to not have clarity on it? Because सब कुछ नहीं पता होता.
Because the reality is it will be a tough ride, and why would you continue when the time's tough? So sometimes it's not just the static picture of who he is today. It is also about
what potential you see that
what is
the growing to.
What is the growth curve of that guy?
Hi guys, this is Nivedan here again from Coffee and Startups, where we bring you the most amazing founders and other people from the startup world. This time we have someone very unique. We've not had an investor on our playground so far, and we have today Mr. Pratik Poddar. He happens to be a senior of mine from college, and he's the partner at Nexus Venture Partners. It's one of the biggest VCs in the world. It's a venture capital fund, and they've had phenomenal success with a lot of their previous investments, portfolio companies so far. Some of them are names that you've heard of. So companies like Zepto, Postman, White Hat Junior, Delivery, and so many more. We're going to learn a lot more of these companies, the successes they've had, and even what is considered a failure in the VC world. We're going to explore all of those topics too. And Pratik is at the helm of it. He's leading a lot of things in their India strategy, and he's investing in a lot of very promising upcoming companies, a lot of startups in the tech, commerce space, and many more that we're going to learn today. So Pratik has himself had a very amazing journey, a very early journey of graduating. You graduated in 2010, if I'm right, and since then you've had a bunch of startups yourself. You were probably in the early pioneers of social commerce and content-based businesses, and when I was kind of going through them, I felt like, were you a little ahead of your time? That's what the feeling I got, and I would love to learn from you today, right? In terms of how has your journey been from being a graduate of IIT Bombay and then having your own stints at different companies. You've been a consultant as well, having your own set of startups, and then landing up at one of these top end VCs and growing your career in this over the last 7 to 8 years, right?
Yeah.
So Pratik, I'm very curious to learn like what has your journey been, and and I would love to take away some lessons and insights from what you've had.
Awesome. Very excited to tell you about it, and thank you for having me here. I'll take a step back. When I was entering IIT, I actually wanted to be a mathematician only. So I only wanted to do math. I did internships, which was mathy internships. I published a paper. I did only research internships. The intent was to do only math, nothing else. It so happened that during the campus as well, I made a few friends who were very super seniors of ours, who were doing startups then, and I would code for them over summers and winters. And if I did something well someday, I'll get a Subway sandwich. If it was a bad day, then I'll get a CCD 7 rupee coffee.
7 rupee coffee from CCD?
It was a CCD Cafe Coffee Day Express one.
Damn. Okay.
So that was the
inflation.
So I genuinely used to work for them because it was just fun and I learned a lot.
Right.
But the intent was only to be on the math side and never think of a startup.
These were side gigs. मैं coding तो ऐसे ही कर लेता हूँ.
क्योंकि coding का शौक था.
असली दिल तो math में.
असली दिल math में. And I ended up and I was applying for apps ki I'll just go abroad and do PhD. But for some personal reasons, I just felt that I did not want to go outside India then. And I ended up deciding that we'll decide on PhD later, but I'll join Morgan Stanley Quant Group. everyone
is
there was
fairly a numbers game.
almost there. Everyone there was either a math Olympiad guy or a math PhD. So it felt like it is my type of a thing. When I was at Morgan for 2 years, I realized in those days, uh, Facebook IPO was about to happen. Movie Social Network had come in, and you knew that, you felt that tech is the future, and you want to be on the tech side.
Right.
I went to my folks and said, well, I want to do a startup, and people told me that you should get some business experience. You don't think business first. You only think tech. And
People had that insight back then. I feel like almost a long time ago, 10, 12 years now.
But it was actually more obvious then, because most entrepreneurs then, or most people who were trying entrepreneurship then, were from consulting firms. So it was more obvious that I was different, and so I should. It was even more obvious for people then that I did not have it to do it. So people told me I should get some business experience, and where do you get business experience? You get it at consulting firms or private equity firms. So I ended up joining Blackstone Private Equity, which was
Just ended up joining Blackstone, and again just another company.
of course, great firm, fantastic people. I learned a lot, but in those days, lots of acquisitions were happening. Ola.
So just give us a little bit on what Blackstone does. Sorry.
So Blackstone is a private equity firm.
Is it one of the biggest?
It's amongst the top 4-5 largest private equity firms of the world, and they're a very small India team, 12-member India team, and of course they've invested a lot of money and made a lot of money in the process. But in those days, maybe it was arrogance of a kid. I really wanted to be on the tech side. It felt that is the future. I distinctly remember I was iPad was launched, and you knew this is future, and you knew everything that was happening in Facebook was the future. You just felt it, and it was arrogance of a young kid where I was like, well, money does not matter, career, we'll figure it out, right? As a young kid, you can do whatever you want to.
Which is great actually. That delusion is actually a nice thing to have.
I agree.
I think when people say तुम बच्चे हो तुम्हें नहीं पता है, I'm like मैं बच्चा हूँ मुझे नहीं पता है फिर भी मैं करूँगा और कोई बात नहीं.
तभी अच्छा है, बच्चा ही कर सकता है, ज़्यादा समझदार आदमी नहीं कर सकता.
तुम्हें ज़्यादा पता है तो तुम ज़्यादा डर रहे हो. शायद मेरे नहीं डरने से कुछ हो जाए.
बिल्कुल. So I don't repent it, but I knew my framework was wrong when I took that decision. So started my first startup in a social commerce space. Then social commerce was not the social commerce of today. It was I was actually building a social network around products. It was more closer to Pinterest with some commerce angle, etc. It was too early. It was 2012. E-commerce was not large enough. What do you build? How do you build a community layer on top of commerce? It did not make any sense. And of course, there was no capital available for such ideas.
Did someone point you that, Pratik, this is a bad idea?
People were too polite. So I correct myself. People who pointed it out, I don't think I listened to them. So
did they? Okay, I want to just out of curiosity, did they say this is a bad idea, or Pratik, this is too early? These are two very different feedbacks.
This is too early is a very mature statement to make. I don't think anyone is that mature. So it's just too high. And maybe there were people who were mature, but they would be very polite, and it's just difficult. It's just difficult. ना किसी entrepreneur को कैसे बोल सकते हो कि तुम यार time pass कर रहे थे?
So do you adopt this philosophy now? Do you say these things a bit more blunt so that you can be that person you wanted?
So it's actually amazing. I want to do that, and I am more blunt. But I have realized that the entrepreneurs I have been most blunt with, कि buddy, what you are saying does not make sense, and this has challenges. Those people have built the largest companies. So the reality is
level of humility. We're sitting with a top VC who's saying that every time he stopped someone, that person has gone on to become successful. So when you face a rejection, remember,
not every time, but a few times.
Okay, there is nuance.
But a few times, and that's why it's very difficult for me to be very confident as well. Like even my best friend, I'll tell them that hey, very challenging, but hey, I said this to these two guys as well, and these two guys have built multi-billion-dollar companies.
So you're being holistic with your viewpoint that I right now think something else, but I can be wrong.
I can be wrong. And in best companies, I have to be wrong, because if it was obvious and everyone understood it, then it was not logical. It was not unique anyways. So you have to believe in something that no one else believes in. So and hence
be contrarian and be right.
Exactly, and it's very complicated. I don't know what's the right answer. So looking back, I don't have any grudges against people who did not share things directly with me.
Fair enough.
Because it was difficult. Why would anyone listen to
in
you?
that moment, you probably wouldn't have listened.
I wouldn't have.
You wouldn't have.
I wouldn't have.
So,
I distinctly remember I went through a product leader in those days to get feedback on my product, and when I showed it to him, he was like, "You are just building it out, right? This is not the final version." And and I hated him for a few months, but he was right.
yeah.
So I would not listen to him.
Our egos are fragile when we are young.
Exactly.
They're very fragile.
And you are building, right? So everyone is, and there's so many stories, right? You should not, if you fight with everyone, then only you will win. So there are many reasons for you to believe in
So you
yourself.
did some 2 or 3 startups.
So yeah, the reality is whenever anyone is failing, he does multiple startups. That's the reality. People don't say it.
You were doing multiple at the same time?
No, first company failed, then you started the second one, then second failed, then you started the third one, and money was challenging in between, so you did freelancing as well. So on
that's the classic entrepreneur
exactly. And if I would have been successful, then the story would have been I tried something for 2 years and then I built this company which became very, very large. So that would have been a simpler story. But because everything failed, then everything becomes significant. So you say, well, I did this, I did this, I did this, I did this. So 3 years, I did a lot of things. And at that point of time, 5 years after graduation, I had done quant, I had done risk modeling, I had done algo trading, I had done private equity, I had done startup as a CEO, I had done startup as a CTO, I had done freelancing, but I had not really succeeded in anything. And I had just tried everything for a few months or a few years. So you felt lost.
So was that a point of inflection?
It was a terrible time. I felt like the actor in that Ashiki 2 movie, that life is over now and nothing can be done now. And thankfully I had a few seniors, friends who supported me at that point of time, helped me get out of that negative mindset. And that's how I joined Nexus, by the way. So I thought, well, I need to do something now, and VC seems like the right fit. And I applied to a few companies as well, a few large startups then, and then they said that we don't hire people who are not MBAs. So most VCs rejected me because they said, well, we hire only MBAs in post-analyst role. So Nexus gave me a shot at interviewing, and during Nexus interview, I felt that people were nice, people were homely, and that's how I ended up joining Nexus.
So on this, before we go into the Nexus story, you said you had a time where you felt lost and you felt like कुछ काम नहीं कर रहा है, क्या करें? And you felt like the Ashiki actor for a while. What rank in IIT Bombay did you have? Like you were in computer science. You were in top 100, right? You got some of the best jobs that one can aspire for. I want to get a take from you that after having had some initial success in your career, you don't need to prove to anyone that I can do a lot, but there was a time when you had failed, and in your mind, at the very least, you had evidently failed, right? And interestingly, your reason for failure was being quite ahead of time, which is probably a little better kind of failure, right? But I want to know that this is a very important point because as a founder, people are going to go through tough times, and all your previous glories would not matter so much. So what in that moment, apart from your support system, what in your head went on then that let you say that, okay, let me continue, let me keep fighting? Was there some self-belief? Was it broken for a while?
It was broken.
It was? It didn't matter that you had some accolades from the past?
It actually hurts you more. Despite this, and people had expectations. I know there was a Quora post where someone asked who are the best entrepreneurs out there, and amongst all the top ones, there was a comment ki we believe in Pratik, he'll do something. And again, in those days, there were not many entrepreneurs out there, right? It was just a very small community. So it was even more pressurizing. In fact, when funding articles would come, because the ecosystem was not mature, people were like, "Acha, tumhara nahi ho raha, sabka to ho raha hai." So it was actually very depressing, and again, young person's challenge. I actually, I said this to so Kunal Bal. I met him once and I said कि आपका तो जल्दी से हो गया था सक्सेस, मुझे टाइम लगा, मेरा हो ही नहीं रहा था. बोले मेरा भी टाइम लग रहा था, मैंने भी 2 साल बहुत कुछ किया था, पहले दिन कुछ नहीं होता है. Wow. It's just you have to accept that कि एक दिन में कुछ होता नहीं है. And that humility or the reality check needed to happen. So in my head, I think I was completely broken. I was very, very unhappy. I was actually very, I felt that the world was lost. But I continued for 3 years only because there was no other option.
And you
Because
couldn't have spoken about this back then, right? That now it can look back as if it's a detached someone else's story.
definitely.
But must be really tough to just talk about it.
It was terrible. You could not hang out with friends because you would think about. Again, I say this to a lot of people that cash and cash flow are different. So it's not that I was poor. I had money, but because you didn't have cash flow, you just live life differently. And looking back, it was stupid. And I advise friends not to do that.
Yeah.
That just because you're not making money right now, that does not mean you
I've
should.
been in that situation multiple times, and I am the one usually pushing people कि यार पैसे हैं तुम्हारे पास, तुम्हारी nervousness
फालतू में गरीब मत बनो.
हाँ फालतू
और फालतू में हीरो मत बनो. फालतू में I also say that all of us get this feeling कि ज़्यादा fight मारेंगे तो ज़्यादा, like this is the path to success.
Correct.
Pain, hustle. Pain is good. Pain is good, but unnecessary pain is not good.
Right.
I could afford to have led a better life, and hence the probability of my success would have been higher.
Yeah. You were paying attention to things which were actually distracting you, even though you had the resources. Essentially, you were creating a mental distraction by saying, no, I must be conservative, I must live a certain way, I must hang out with a certain set of people. These were unnecessary foundations you put on yourself, which are all mental.
And this adds to stress, this leads to...
but no, you said your support system helped you a lot, and then eventually you decided, I'm going to take an action. Nexus gave you a shot. What happened then?
So I didn't plan to be here for so long. That's the reality. Of course, I would not say this in an interview. In an interview, it was always like, yes, I want to be a VC forever. But in my head, it was a 2-year thing.
I'll make some money. Path.
I'll make some money. I'll get stable again, and then I'll start again. That was a mindset when I was interviewing. When I talked to the firm about it, now the firm says, of course we knew that. And of
we
course,
didn't buy that when you said कि हम नहीं रहूँगा, यहीं
retire. But the short is that once you come here, you like it so much that you might want to continue. But even if you're an entrepreneur, it's okay. But you wanting to explore this is okay, and that's good enough.
Yeah.
So joined the firm. I remember because I had quit so many things so much, so fast. I actually had a 3-month deadline, then a 6-month deadline, then a 1-year deadline.
In what sense?
That I have to that I'll not run away. I had run away from so many things. In 5 years, I had done 2 jobs, 3 startups, and freelancing. I was worried whether I can stay at one place for some time.
I understand that feeling.
It was a stupid feeling now, but then it was a very real feeling. In my 1-year anniversary, we actually got friends actually sent cakes to the office that I had completed 1 year at Nexus.
Wow, what a sarcastic compliment in a way.
Friends knew it, I knew it. Of course, no one else did. But thankfully, the firm let me grow over time.
What did they see in you back then? I mean, for someone who's not done an MBA, I mean, you had a great background otherwise, but someone who's not done an MBA, it was a big deal for VCs to go with someone who's without an MBA, and you were more on the tech side a bit. Instead of even the business side too. You were distant from MBA further. What did they see in you that you felt that made it?
So looking back, and I would also hire for those traits now. It was just, I think it's just the curiosity and the hustle.
Wow.
So it sounds stupid, but I actually would meet and learn about everything out there. You just go to every tea shop out there on this road. Every tea shop was an adda where you just meet people and talk to everyone and learn what they are doing. And I just wanted to be around people, and I just felt alive when that was happening.
Wow.
So that is why friends were saying, yeah, you're more like a VC than an entrepreneur. And that was a trigger point.
Very interesting.
But I think curiosity and hustle. Hustle is the key word. It sounds that VC job is a comfortable job. Maybe it is not as emotional and as suicidal as entrepreneurship is. but it's not comfortable. And I said, you would work. There are days, there are weeks when you would sleep for 25 hours that week, 30 hours that week, because a lot of things are happening, and you'll continuously hustle. You'll knock as many doors as possible, just for that one chance that this partnership for your portfolio company will be cracked, or you'll win that deal, or you'll get that deal, or you'll learn that from that founder, and so on. You just knock as many doors as possible.
As a VC.
As a VC.
This is interesting. Okay, so I would like to go a little deeper into what a VC does, and I think that'll, from a more internal perspective, मेरा एक perception है किसी like there is an image कि that venture capitalists, by the name capitalists, are the most capitalists of all, right? In the sense that you've got money, and with basically you've got money that you multiply, and founders are pawns in this game. I've heard this negativity around the VC ecosystem, and I personally do not align with it. I think I see that, like, I would use the word partner, right? I think you use the word partners in that. So I want to understand first, what does a VC fundamentally do, and how is it critical for the startup ecosystem?
So, there was a time when, so for any innovation, capital is needed. And if only rich people or corporates could do innovation, then there's a challenge.
Fair enough.
So, is there a role for VC in the world? Yes. Now, what we do day in, day out, I think 40-50% of my time is spent in talking to new companies or companies that I've been tracking for new investments. And effectively, that would mean I'm talking to 4 or 5 companies a day. So personally, I would have talked to 1,000 companies a year, 1,200 companies a year. And in 7 years, that means I would have talked to 10,000 companies.
10,000 unique.
Well, maybe there's some of it will be repeat conversations. The 10,000 meetings for new investments.
Meetings for new investments.
10,000 meetings for new investments.
Understood.
Which is
average
not
should be somewhere between 1 to 2, because most are going to not go to the second meet or third meet.
Sorry?
Most meetings that you have in the first one probably won't end up
But
at second or third meet, because natural funnel is that.
Of course. So you run so many meetings, okay. The other 50% of the time is mostly working with companies. And now I'm not actively working with companies in the sense that I'm not operationally involved, but you're involved at a higher level.
What is that involvement like?
Okay, what is happening in this space in general? What is happening globally?
You come up with a bird's eye view of things so that the founders have a context, because they're too entrenched and narrowly into their work.
And founders also can use us better, because see, in most things we don't have functional expertise, but I can connect the founders to the right guys because I have built those networks and tentacles in the ecosystem faster and better. And I can afford to do it better than the founder as well, because founder has only one company. I have so many companies that it's worth it for other people to talk to me better. Because
by the virtue of the role that you play, you're hyper connected in this role,
for example,
which a normal founder wouldn't be ever.
Exactly. For example, if a founder is starting up in a content space, would he get the access to the CXOs of the largest global content companies? No, but I would have it because I have 5 content companies.
Wow.
And it's just easier for them to spend time with me to begin with. Of course,
I think this is a piece that probably is not visible to people from the outside. What is visible is a headline. Nexus ने $200 million डाल दिया.
$200 million डालेंगे.
उसके पीछे जो मेहनत कर रहे हैं हम, वो कोई नहीं डाल रहा उस हेडलाइन के नीचे.
सबसे ज़्यादा मेहनत तो see, best founders always have multiple options. So सबसे ज़्यादा मेहनत तो founders, like working with the founders to win those deals. So that's why it comes across as कि VC के पास डील आ रही है, या VC पैसे डाल रहा है. अपने आप कुछ नहीं डाल रहा, क्योंकि जहाँ भी डालना पड़ता है वहाँ बहुत फायदा.
तुम्हें इतना दे देता हूँ, उसे इतना दे देता हूँ.
बहुत एक डील मतलब. And by the way, candidly, most deals we win is because of the entrepreneurs that are working with us. So अगर मैं बोलूँगा मेरे पैसे ले लो, बोलेगा भाई तू कौन होता है? Like founders बोलते हैं कि भाई
इनसे ले लो, they're great partners. Wow.
So it has to, like, it's a very deeply entrenched system. And it has to work out in that manner.
No, this is great. So, okay. So, we understand what a VC does. We understand what is the importance in the entire ecosystem of startups, right? Now, like, in terms of Nexus specifically, if someone wants to understand what is your approach, कि हम एक founder में क्या देखते हैं, हम उसके business में क्या देखते हैं, what is the mindset that you bring? What are the questions that you ask these people? I want to get a sense of how you think and how your first interaction with the founder looks like.
Yeah, so I'll first come up with the framework on the three things that we are looking at. We are looking at market, we are looking at the team, and we are looking at the approach. Market, is the market large enough? A lot of good businesses, good founders, because the markets are very bad, sometimes it does not work out. So that's a gating factor.
So only small or large, not like that's it. The size of the market is enough, or what is the other things
Competitive dynamics, etc., comes in, but a lot of times that come in the approach part.
Okay, got it.
And market also, good that you brought it up. It's also what I said was also practically not 100% correct, because best companies expand the market as well.
Ooh.
So if you tell me what was the market size, the market size is small, but should I invest? Maybe yes, because if such a solution comes in, then the market will expand.
Got
So
it.
one of our founders tells it right, that if you increase the accessibility and affordability, then you increase the market size. So whenever a startup is doing that, then I should keep my market size hat aside. And
Okay. Got it. So it's a hygiene check.
It's a hygiene check.
It can't be a tricky market at least.
हाँ.
ठीक है. Market.
But उसमें clear yes and no हो जाता है.
Fair enough.
Second is team. This perhaps is the most important, and every VC says it, but very difficult to put it in practice. Let's be real. So the questions that you are trying to get an answer to is, why is the founder doing this? What is his motivation? Because the reality is it will be a tough ride, and why would he continue when the time's tough? So does he associate with the problem deeply? Does he know something that most people don't? Does he believe in something that most people don't? Does he want to create this world passionately? Can he build a team around himself? Can he grow as a founder, as a leader, as a person? So sometimes it's not just the static picture of who he is today. It is also about
what potential you
what,
see that
what
person
is
will
the
grow into.
What is the growth curve of that guy?
Now these are, these sound great in theory. What does it mean when you put it in practice?
I'm not kidding. It is genuinely about getting goosebumps. When you meet the guy, you get goosebumps.
So you let your physiology decide.
And by the way, that's true, right? Based on all the data points that we collect over time, it just so happens that these are all very soft things. These are all soft things.
Yeah.
The soft things answer will come in a soft thing only. It cannot be.
Wow.
But you know that you want to work with someone, because when you meet him, you know that he's a force of nature. She's a force of nature.
That's how you would describe someone.
It's just amazing. First company I invested in was Pratilipi. So on paper, the book publishing market in India is small. The total number of books published is like peanuts. Like, you cannot build a very large company by doing that. And in those days, vernacular word did not exist. People were not talking about vernacular content, India content, Bharat. Those things did not exist. It was.
This is what year?
This was 2015 November.
Okay.
So those things did not exist. And logically, like, you should not be investing if you just look at the document. But when you meet the founder, you know, he just wants to create this world. He's just passionately, stupidly in love with the problem. So he starts with the story by saying, I wanted to read books, I read all the books, and I did not have access to more books. Then I had to read English, and like, why do I need to read English? Why is more content not available? Then I went to the authors, and authors are like, well, this is because there's no way to distribute. I'm like, shit, there has to be a better answer. Let me build it. And he just started building it with all humility. It was not that he wanted to build a company, really. But even then, he had a point of view that once such things get created, then stories are valuable and IPs are valuable and IPs will be monetized.
He understood the impact of distribution on the core value being offered itself.
Exactly.
कि हमारा ecosystem entirely foster, ऐसा नहीं है कि जो है वो बिकेगा.
Exactly.
But अगर बिकने लगेगा, तो जो है वो भी बढ़ेगा.
और market भी create होगा, supply बनेगा, buying it.
He understood that.
He understood that intuitively.
And it must be a new insight for you. I mean, you would not have a theory like this.
It was crazy. I actually sent an email of questions before the meeting. These are the questions I have. And I was just going through those questions one by one in the call, and it was like, dude, those questions were all invalid, because once you change the framework, like, oh, this makes sense. It's across the board. White hat, if you think about it, people paying $500 for coding education for kids. Like I come
This
from
idea doesn't sound very appealing, honestly. Like now we know it worked out.
Exactly.
It's easy to say in
In those days
hindsight.
it
But
did
I'm
not.
like, नहीं बच्चों के लिए 30,000
कौन
40,000
देगा
रुपए कौन
भाई?
देगा यार?
मैं बहुत महंगे स्कूल में पढ़ता था तो जाके 6,000 रुपया क्वार्टर की फीस होती थी. ये क्या इतने पैसे कैसे देते हैं? But again, the way the founder knows how he'll create the world and how he explains.
So essentially you so when it comes to market we've spoken about, ये थोड़ा objective metric है. इसमें you can be a little lenient also कि यार ठीक है इसमें इतना let's not do. But when it comes to team, you literally letting your intuition work, which is where your experience as VC probably comes in more because you have feedback.
Exactly.
कौन से founder के साथ मैंने जल्दबाजी कर ली थी, गड़बड़ कर ली थी.
और मैंने अच्छे भी बहुत सारे फाउंडर्स हैं जो मैंने उस समय मैंने दिमाग ज़्यादा लगा दिया, छूट गया था. So I was
मेरे साथ हुआ है बहुत बार because I do this pitching reality show जहाँ पे founders आते हैं, वो अपना 1 minute elevator pitch देते हैं, then they go on and explaining their business and there are mentors who help them out with industry connects, ज्ञान वगैरह. And I saw a common thread. All of them were like कि यार not all of them actually, some of them were कि I'm not very comfortable in front of the camera, मुझे बोलने में थोड़ा सा हिचक होती है. So is that okay? Because I was pushing them कि यार थोड़ा मस्ती वाला अपन कुछ करते हैं, and they were like कि यार I'm not sure if I'm a great in communication. This is something I've seen in a common thread. A lot of founders are just nerds, okay? Proudly nerds in the way कि यार मुझे टेक बहुत अच्छे से आता है, मुझे समझ में आता है, लेकिन यार I'm not sure कि मैं पिच कैसे करूँगा.
बिल्कुल.
अब वो ऐसा फाउंडर है, मेरे को नहीं आता बोलना अभी ज़्यादा, बट मेरा पैशन तो है अंदर, पैशन को लैंग्वेज नहीं चाहिए.
बिल्कुल.
तो आपको वो how big a deal is it for you?
So it's my job to figure it out. If I'm not figuring it out, then I'll lose on the deal, and I'll lose out on the opportunity to.
आपको ऐसा नहीं लगता कि फाउंडर मुझे सेल नहीं कर पा रहा? This is the fear that मुझे सेल नहीं कर पा रहा है, बाकी दुनिया को कैसे सेल करेगा?
Is a problem, and that's why in some spaces it is much more required.
Okay, it's not every across the board. कुछ जगहों पे शायद बहुत important है.
So and we have done a lot of mistakes by the way in that situation, that we have invested in founders that we thought are better builders, but they were not better fundraisers, and those companies lost. Better fundraising is sometimes required in some spaces. We actually there are a few instances where I have invested in the founder where we have actually made this statement that he will not be able to raise in future on storytelling. He will be only able to raise if he delivers on numbers.
Okay.
And it's okay. Some founders, not every founder.
Yeah, I mean,
not every space requires a lot of money.
Charismatic Steve Jobs, yeah,
and not every space needs that.
Yeah, okay.
Some spaces need that.
Why, as a thumb rule, क्या B2C companies में ज़्यादा अच्छा communication चाहिए और B2B में कम चाहिए? Can I say that?
No, because SaaS में भी communication बहुत solid चाहिए. GTM figure out करना, everything is so competitive. Everything is. Interesting. It's just impossible for you to break through the clutter. So you're just saying it very clearly and getting the community aligned behind you is a very important aspect. So and by the way, it's not selling just to investors, right? It's selling to employees, to team, community, customers. So you're selling to so many people.
So you do care about that as an important
in some spaces you don't, in some spaces you do.
Got it.
And I would argue 20-25% of our portfolio, and we talk about it in front of with those founders as well, that our company is bigger and better than our valuation because we are not overselling, which is okay.
Wow. Okay. Some people have the conviction to come up and say this way.
Yeah, people understand. See, first year of your entrepreneurship, you are very insecure about these things. Over time, I think entrepreneurial. I used to say this कि startup कुछ सिखाया ना सिखाया philosopher बना देता है, because then you know who you are better, and it's okay to admit it, right? And this is my strength, this is my weakness. It's okay.
Basically, you're punched enough in the face to go back home and then say इतना कैसे खाया.
And you become humble. You don't need to lie to yourself. It's okay. This is my strength. This is my weakness. You don't need to lie to yourself. When you are just in the beginning of your journey, you lie.
Okay. So you said you look at 3 considerations. There is a market, बड़ा होना चाहिए, at least minimal. You had the team. कि on like the simplest way to describe it was that intuitively you get some sort of goosebumps कि यार this person is a force of nature, right? That is what I took away. And there was another thing you said, which was
approach. So you know, and this is more logical and more defined in terms of discussion. Ki, how would you win? How would you compete against different players? What is your sharp GTM? What is your sharp entry point? So that's a more relatable discussion, but there as well, again, it just tells you who the founder is and how he's thinking about it. So market, team, and approach are the three things. And you also asked about the questions.
What does the first meeting with a founder look like? What should they have clarity on, and what is it okay to not have clarity on it? Because सब कुछ नहीं पता होता सबको.
So really, why did the founder start this? What is the problem statement that he broke? Why did he pick that? And how does he think about solving it? Of course, these are important questions. In some cases, I think we have also figured out this question helps. Of course, every startup has risk, right? So risk A, risk B, risk C. And when you ask the founder, some founders are like, "Nahi, koi risk nahi hai." That's not true. So of course, there are risks. Some founders are like, "Okay, yes, these are the risks, and this is how I try to mitigate it." And then you ask them, "Well, if this does not happen, then what?" And then they would have thought 3 steps ahead.
So give me an example. What does this risk look like? Because I don't want to keep it theoretical.
So when we were talking to Zepto, which was then Kirana Cart, so the founders knew that they had to operate in the grocery space, and they knew that the existing solutions were not good enough. And we talked about all the problem statements. Would you deliver from dark stores or from stores nearby, and how do you keep inventory? Would you want to be a unique product, a delivery company, or would you want to be a mass market delivery company? What is the GTM? Is it housewives or is it young bachelors? And the founders had deep point of view on all the things. Now you might argue that, hey, and all these verticals had some risks. So when you were debating that, hey, why would this not? How would you do this? This is the risk there. Well, yes, we plan to mitigate it this way. Otherwise, this is the answer.
And they would have usually thought of it way before, like, you prompted them essentially.
Yes, because it is, they have to think about it, right? They are building the company.
That means they're deep into the problem.
Deep into the problem. And they truly want to solve the problem. And they are comfortable being in a position where, well, our hypothesis was wrong. Let's change. And one of my founders says this, that he thinks of life as he thinks of every decision as a probabilistic decision.
As a probabilistic decision.
So at no point of time one can say that I know this will happen. There's a 99% probability that this will happen. 1% it will not happen.
True nerds would say that, but math nerds.
But if you have that 1% probability that it will not happen, you have to account for it, because you know that there's a probability that it will not happen. And counterintuitively, many people say that entrepreneurs are risk takers.
They're actually risk mitigators.
They are very risky. So they would actually want to get away from risks, and that is why they would actually plan most things. So it's counterintuitive, but that's how best entrepreneurs have been working.
Very interesting. So we've covered basically what you look for in a startup and what does an interaction with a founder look like, especially in the first meeting.
Yes.
Now that you've known that, okay, this is a person, whether or not you want to go ahead and understand their worldview more or not, then the next step of this process is kicked off. Now, typically, there are hundreds of VCs out there, first of all. I want to understand what is different about Nexus, and how are typically VCs different from each other in general, but then also specific to Nexus, ki aap log alag kaise hain?
Yeah. So, by the way, you don't plan for it when you started, huh? You just wanted to work with highest quality entrepreneurs, and you went ahead and worked with people where there was chemistry and camaraderie, and you just...
There must be something about the team and their worldview that you became a bigger VC over time.
Yes, and that's how now we think about it. The type of entrepreneurs we liked and some of the others didn't like, or the type of entrepreneurs we didn't like while others liked, and those companies sometimes became good companies. Looking back, we think that we have liked more product-focused entrepreneurs.
Product-focused entrepreneurs.
So many of our companies, the founders had a deep obsession about the product and the consumer. So whether it's Postman or Hasura or Pratilipi or Unacademy or Quizzes or Zepto or Turtlemint or Rapido, even in operational heavy companies, the founders just were maniacal about about the product experience, and in most cases they would not throw people at the problem. They will throw money. They will not throw people at the problem. They will not throw money at the problem. They'll solve the problem using product thinking.
And probably that is why these people scale the most.
Well,
I mean, is that a fair hypothesis to make?
this-
That if I'm constantly thinking of productizing something,
Yes.
I'm planning for, in a way, maximum scale with minimal costs
yes.
constantly.
That's what we like. That's what we like to believe. But hey, there have been companies that are where it has not been product focused, but still founders have succeeded. But this is we are still evolving. Right. But this is one place where we think we have been able to do a better job than others. And for winning deals or which type of founders work with you, see, at the end of the day, it's really a partnership, and there's no set rule. It's really wherever the founder and you really want to work with each other, it happens. Our hope is the founders we want to work with choose us over others, and our hope is we are doing enough things right that the ecosystem will allow us to win deals. But it's really a very personal choice for the founder, because at the end of the day, it's his one company and he needs.
For you, they're probably one of the many portfolio. Yes. For them, it's their entire company.
So from their vantage point, they need to partner with people who they truly trust, who they are comfortable calling at 2 a.m. at night, because from their vantage point, it's the thing, and we hope that we have been worthy partners for a lot of these entrepreneurs.
Got it. Okay, so Pratik, we've spoken about all these things. I want to know, you've been in this for a while. What are the top companies that you think are like the shining stars of your portfolio? And the ones which technically is called an anti-portfolio, कि काश मैंने उस दिन उसको हाँ कर दिया होता, मेरे पास मौका था, वो लोग कौन हैं? We want to know some names and which ones you enjoyed and which ones did you regret the most?
Yeah. So of course you learn from successes and you learn from failures as well. You learn from successes more, by the way. People say you learn from failures, but no. You learn from successes, because I don't want to learn 100 ways a thing will not be done. I want to learn the one way it will be done. So you learn from successes more. But of course, I have seen some companies grow while I have been a part of Nexus team, and Postman, Hasura, Inframarket, Unacademy, Turtlemint, Rapido are some of the companies that have scaled reasonably well. Zepto, very fast growth recently. So all these companies have scaled very fast. Companies I have been actively working with from day one. Some of them have also grown well. Newton School, Pratilipi, Turtlemint, and One Code. So good experiences, and some of these companies are promising or have proven success.
And what is the criteria of success, by the way, here?
So the way I think about it is company building as stages of risk mitigation.
Wow.
So you start by saying, well, what was the risk? Well, team building was a risk, product market fit was the risk, scaling up was the risk. One risk was mitigated, second risk was mitigated, third risk was mitigated. So if risks are being mitigated, then you're moving ahead in some direction.
That is further in the success ladder.
Exactly. Of course, there's a possibility that at the end there's a big risk and everything fails. But are you mitigating risks at every step? If you are, then you're on the right path. Out of the companies that I had an opportunity to talk to, learn from, but I could not, I would argue Meesho and ShareChat.
Meesho
and ShareChat are perhaps the biggest.
And ShareChat, very interesting. They are mega giants now.
Both of them started in my tenure. Both of the spaces were spaces that I really liked.
Social commerce, Meesho, and say ShareChat is also content, social network.
But it was, but it was just, I could not think beyond the obvious, and I could not think non-linearly.
Tell me honestly, did you have had prior experience in social commerce as well as content platforms? Did having prior context and that prevent you from clear thinking?
Not at all. It was not because of my experience at all. Okay. But so many failures had existed in those spaces. Knowledge of them was a deterrent for sure.
I see.
That it does not work. So many other people have tried it and failed.
So basically, you were averse to taking a bet on the space more than the company itself. Is that the thing?
Yes.
You were a little like, I'm not sure if this is the one, it's not been working out so well. And now that you reflect, now that you know that they've achieved a certain degree of success, probably very high degree of success for most standards, what do you think, what worked out in their favor so well, which was kind of was a blind spot to you? For Meesho once, and then maybe ShareChat also.
So for Meesho, I did not imagine that reseller market is so large.
Oh yeah.
And I always assume that it's a feature on large platforms.
Wow.
Because in my head, logistics, payments, procurement, everything else is being done by large platforms as well.
So what can this new guy have an advantage over? Product भी उनके पास है, distribution भी उनके पास है, customer भी उनके पास है,
पैसे भी उनके पास हैं. So why would a new player win?
Now I'm thinking, अगर मैं आपकी जगह होता तो मैं तो नहीं देता.
हाँ.
ठीक है. Now I've been in Meesho. I know that it works, but it's not easy to imagine in advance. What do you know now that made you now that you can say is the reason for them succeeding given this?
So two things I would add to my framework. One, I should have seen that the founder would make it. I have to look beyond the obvious. Second, the argument that large player will do it is a very false argument at all points of time. Large players have their own battles to fight. And it was a wrong argument to make. So whenever I make that argument, I think about it. Not that I will not make the same mistake again. I think about it often. That it's very difficult because if you start removing them, then you just can invest in most things. Yeah. So it's just very difficult to create that fine line. But hopefully, I'm learning and I'll not repeat the mistake. So Meesho, it was the case. ShareChat, I think they were building a content platform which was growing fast. I didn't imagine that the content categories would evolve as fast as the founders made it evolve. So to begin with, it was of course commoditized content.
It was something like a WhatsApp status thing.
WhatsApp right? Status, good morning, good evening. So you, of course, to begin with, it feels that how would it scale from here?
Right.
But what I could not imagine well then was the same content format. Eventually, if the founders are thinking about it right, they will change the depth of the content and it will become Mehndi designs from good morning, good evening, and then from Mehndi design to wedding shoots, and like just the quality, the depth of content over time increases. But again, there had been so many failures before this.
I get it. Yeah. So if now I'm thinking about this. You were looking at these companies when basically they were in their very early stages. They didn't have solid proof of scale or anything. So you were, of course, forced to imagine things which had never happened before, which is a very hard thing to do, right?
That is why this job is difficult and rewarding. If someone is able to do it, it's great.
Yeah. Now I'm thinking there is nothing like an expert VC in that case.
100%.
If someone claims I'm an expert VC, 100%. You know they're full of faff.
In fact, we actually say this internally, that if you're an expert of a space, then almost sure you will not be able to do anything in that space. Not knowing is actually good. And most of the misses we have had have been because we thought too much.
You knew too much. Yeah.
We thought we knew too much. And
I'm curious about this because at that stage, even these founders, they were in their early phase. Probably they had their own early stage struggles, and I know about Meesho that it was not easy to raise funds in the first round. That I know. Subsequently, they proved numbers, and Vidit and Sanjeev, they cracked a great game. Of course, now it's all history. But did they have this clarity of vision themselves, और उनके लिए भी सरप्राइज था कि यार ये क्या हो गया? मैंने तो खुद ने नहीं सोचा था रीसेलर मार्केट इतना बड़ा होगा, यार शेयर चैट कि यार मैंने खुद ने नहीं सोचा था वेडिंग शूट्स और मेहंदी डिजाइन्स बहुत चलने लग जाएंगी. उनको कैसे पता चल गया? उनको पता था या नहीं पता था, उनके लिए भी सरप्राइज था. क्या था यहाँ पे?
यार I would think that founders have an inkling and they are seeing things, but they are also not able to articulate it as well then. And even if they articulate,
it wouldn't count so much.
And I don't think I'll have the humility to listen to it, right? Because if you tell me that I'll do this and then I'll do that and then I'll do that, it's very difficult for me to imagine. वो सब बातें हैं, होता नहीं है.
Tricky है.
तो दोनों side challenges.
This is the first time I'm able to appreciate the degree of uncertainty you deal with day in day out. And
And
the
that's why
stakes.
every day, exactly, every day is stressful because one call one day could change the
Wow.
lives of
I mean,
and
I
careers.
thought, so I'm kind of feeling humbled. I thought मुझे पता है हाँ VCs तो equity के बदले में in short equity के बदले में पैसे दे देते हैं. They're buying an opportunity. The founder is also getting funds and whatever to scale. And now I'm thinking the degree of uncertainty that you face every
Yeah.
day is much higher than most roles will ever require. And like high uncertainty, high stakes.
Yeah.
You can have high uncertainty, low stakes. That still normalizes you.
Well, I'm sure there are other jobs with higher uncertainty, higher
No,
stakes, but yeah.
it's one of the higher in that
Yeah.
case. We're not saying it's probably nobody's
Yeah.
trying to compare
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
right? The guy who's probably mining under the
Exactly.
under the surface.
Exactly.
Let's just give them their
Yeah.
due
Yeah.
respect, right? So there are a lot of people I meet again who are looking to raise funds, and when I ask them, okay, when I try to ask them, is there a way I can help you? And for to understand their problem statement, they send me pitch decks sometimes, and which I try to, as a small little angel investor of my small ticket size, I try to evaluate that. And it is often unclear to me, and मैं तो ये personal advice के तौर पे मांग रहा हूँ आपसे, ठीक है? And if this is useful to anyone who's watching this, is कि I often feel like यार you don't seem investable and ready for fundraise right now. मान लिया शायद आइडिया अच्छा होगा, but there are some multiple things at place, but it seems like not everyone is ready for fundraise, but they're still looking for funds. So what I want to know from you, from your experience, is when should a company raise funds, and what are the good reasons to raise funds?
Yeah. I think I don't associate the first part of your comment. I associate the second part. The first part of your comment is they don't seem investable. It is your perspective.
Yes, fair enough.
So and at the end of the day, from the founder's perspective, it's a top of the funnel game. There are many people like you and me. They'll talk to many people like you and me, and they need to convert one person.
Correct.
And then they become investable, and some of them will become very, very large. So there are many non-investable companies that have become very, very large. So
When I say not ready for being invested,
but again, that is also at the
Yeah,
end of the
that's my
time.
perspective. I agree.
If you come in early, then you take.
with all humility, I think I struggle with making these decisions personally.
But because it's a difficult thing. But
Yeah.
but hey, I would not. I would. So that is a personal perspective. Now, when should a founder raise? See, so angel investment is different than VC investment. Angel investments founders can raise by promising that this is the part of their attempt and this is what they would do. So, in my opinion, the founders should raise from VCs when they are willing to commit their next at least 2, 3, 4 years on a problem statement or problem statements close to the problem statement that they are pitching.
And why is that?
Because VC money, once you take the money, the reality is that you have obligation to work on the problem statement for some time. And
someone has put a bet and faith on you.
And you know it's easier to fire most people, but you cannot fire a board member. So once you have someone on board, then you will not be able to kick him out really. So it's important that you have alignment that these are the problem statements I will work on, and this is the experimentation path, and this is what will be my honest attempt to solving that problem. Failure is okay, but the expectation is that after 6 months you will not say, well, I don't know what to do anymore and I'm moving on, because that is not expected. And hence VC money should be taken only when you know that this is the problem statement or this is the broad problem statement you are going after, and you are willing to commit your time. Once you are willing to commit your time, the reality is you are giving more than the money VC is providing. Then the marriage is easier to make happen.
Wow. This is new one, but yes, this is very useful. Yes. And so this was one. I mean, so we were talking about when to raise funds and what are the good reasons to raise funds.
So this is the second. What are the good reasons? See, if you don't need capital, then don't raise, because at the end of the day, equity raising is a highest cost of capital out there. So you are promising much more. So if you can build the company without raising capital, build it. Some companies require capital because it requires you to prime the pump for some time before they fructify results. And sometimes it's important to build the product, do R&D, and it just takes time, and you need money for that. In such cases, good to raise VC capital.
So what are these good reasons? Okay, hiring a team, is that a good reason?
Yes.
Building the product, is that a good
Yes.
reason? Doing R&D, you said, building
Yes.
technology and any
reason.
development that you need to do for that.
In fact, or a simpler thing, iterating to figure out product market fit, good enough reason.
Oh,
That
is it?
I am raising capital. This is my hypothesis. This is the how I'll test it. With this capital, I'll be able to prove that this market exists, or maybe prove that it does not exist.
Okay, now I'm just very very weird. I'm thinking कि मेरे को कोई आगे ऐसा पिच कर देना तो मैं कहूँगा यार तुम मेरे पैसे से ट्रायल्स करना चाहते हो?
हाँ.
ये तो बड़ा अजीब सा ऐसा होता है.
ऐसा होता है. And that's a
So
very
the founder says I don't have the solution but I have a hypothesis. मेरे को टेस्टिंग के पैसे दे दो.
टेस्टिंग प्रोडक्ट बना के तो करेंगे. तो मैं टेस्ट करूंगा, मैं लॉन्च करूंगा, I learn about the customer and if this does not work, this will work. If this does not work, this will work. And hence I'll try and solve this problem. This is the broad area I'm operating in. This is a large enough problem statement, and I'll figure out how to solve these problems.
So are you saying that as an investor, you're not just looking at ideas and solutions to invest in, you're looking at problem spaces which may be solvable to
Yes.
invest in.
And
Very different
and a
thing.
founder who really wants to
Yes.
dig his teeth and solve that problem.
So does that mean मेरे पास solution नहीं है, मैं आपसे पैसे लेने आ सकता हूँ?
बिल्कुल.
Got it. No. And of course, by definition, late stage means that
Means you have
you've probably arrived at more conclusions and insights
And more risk has been
solutions,
mitigated
and more risk has been mitigated. So you expect those things.
Exactly.
कि तुम मुझसे बड़ा check size ले रहे हो, right? Probably giving me lesser equity also in return for it. So in all ways, it makes sense that you need to have a bit more clarity there. Got it. So these are some good reasons. What are some bad reasons to raise funds? BMW खरीदनी है मुझे. ठीक है.
Bad reason to raise funds is because everyone else is raising. Bad reason to raise funds is to raise on an idea which you don't believe in or you don't believe is scalable, but you are raising because that is what everyone else is doing.
It's a cool new thing to
There are
do.
many businesses which are fantastic businesses, and founders will make money and they'll create a lot of cash flow. It's all great, but VCs might not be the right investors for those businesses.
The company is great, but the investors may not be right. Why is that?
Like for example, because they might not be as scalable.
Okay.
Like in most cases, not there are a few.
Or they may not be a very clear exit path, maybe.
Well, exit paths will come if the businesses are real, because it's just a function of capital.
Let's say I have a namkeen business.
हाँ.
बड़ा ब्रांड बना दिया मैंने नमकीन का.
VC fundable.
अच्छा सेल्स हो रहा है, प्रॉफिट आ रहा है.
VC fundable, IPO होगा, problem क्या?
Okay.
Yeah, in most cases, like, of course there are counter examples, but restaurant businesses typically are good businesses, but very difficult to scale because it's chef-driven business.
Interesting.
Many coaching institutes were not as scalable because they were teacher-led businesses, and once you cannot just scale from one coaching institute to 5 coaching institutes as easily. Good businesses, but might not be new.
Understood. So I think this makes it very clear what is fundable, what is not, and when to raise funds. I think we have some insight on that. With this, I want to move on to the concluding part of our conversation here. So there are a lot of young entrepreneurs out there who are doing things for the first time. They have a lot of passion, and with all that hustle that they're putting in, things don't always necessarily move in the ways they want. That's just how the world is. What advice would you give to these early stage entrepreneurs that, in this journey, what can they do so that they have a, higher odds of success, and they also do not burn themselves off in this process?
Yes. So one would be think big. Most people think very small. When you are younger, you can actually afford to think bigger. So think big.
So be naive.
Be naive.
It's okay.
Be hungry. It's okay. Second would be don't burn yourself. Be happy. It sounds cool to be unhappy when you're building a business. Don't do that. And saying this by being there, done that. Don't do that. Third, build the team right. Have co-founders to begin with. Have co-founders you trust, and build a long-term trusted relationship with your partners. most people think very short term, but long term compounding happens on relationships well if you invest in it from day one.
So we've got people who want to be entrepreneurs, and for them this is valid. And then there are people who probably find this cool or not cool. That's up to them. There are so many different career paths to choose. I think there is a concern that I've recently developed is that being a founder is the cool new shit. That's what it has become right now. And it's just funny that when I scroll through LinkedIn, I mean, there is no one who's looking for a job anymore. Everyone is basically hiring. Okay, just as a side note, but it seems like everyone is a founder, or at least wants to be a founder. Or maybe I'm now too biased with the surroundings that I'm in.
Yeah.
That could also be equally be the case. But I definitely know that there is an uptrend in people who aspire to be entrepreneurs. And a lot of that is now because of social approval that
Yes.
being an entrepreneur has now, which wasn't the case 10, 15, especially 20 years ago, though definitely not. 10 years ago, it was starting to, come up to the surface. And now it's everywhere. It's frothing.
Yeah.
Right? So I want to know, what would you,
Yeah.
if I reached out to you and said, what do I do? I mean, this is startup and all is cool, but what do I do? Like, I don't want to start up. I want to pursue my own path. What does that mean in this new world?
Yeah. So, first of all, I don't think it's wrong at all that many people are becoming entrepreneurs. So, first of all, we have to realize that our network is really just 0.1% of the real world.
Right.
So, even if 0.1% of the people are experimenting and in the simulation that the world is running, everyone fails. The world is still not everyone can fail. And,
Right.
and even if everyone fails, the world is not a very bad place.
So there's net progress.
There's net progress. So we are in a very privileged position that we are connected to this 0.1% of the world, and we think that everyone is doing it. Everyone is still not doing it, but I get where you're coming from.
Right. Not because it's the cool new thing.
Not
That is
because-
where I'm coming with my concerns.
Some people will do it because it's a cool thing and it's okay, because after some time
You don't feel as cool anymore.
the market will evolve. People will know about it. People will know that
You get punched in the face.
You get punched in the face. People will know it's not easy, and it will all
Yeah.
settle down. So it's all okay. If so you don't want to be a founder, and if you're a young guy right now, someone gave this advice to me a few months back, which I thought was perfect. That there are 3 considerations that you should have when you are finalizing a job / career. First, play in innings. That take the job or whatever assignment you are picking up as a 3 to 5 year inning, and just go and play your best innings out there.
Innings.
But it's not about long-term goal. Hey, I want to become this. I want to become that. Nah, just it does not matter, because the reality is you cannot know what long-term is sitting here. 10 years from now, the world will be a very different place. But play in innings, and next 3 to 5 years you can imagine better. And whatever it is, just go and win. Second, work with people who push you to do your best. And third, work in spaces that are at the edge.
What are those spaces?
So, well, this is a more macro statement. So, technology, we are at the edge.
Right.
Most things in technology is the edge, but don't be in spaces which are laggards.
Right.
But I think this framework was bang on. It's simplistic. It's not complicated. It's not philosophical.
Is that the saying that if you're getting a seat in the rocket ship, don't ask which one?
Don't ask. Yes.
It's that thing, right?
It's a different way of saying that, but that is more edgy. This is simpler.
This is simpler.
Even if it's not a rocket ship, it's okay.
Yeah,
But if you have these things going on for you, and you play the game right, eventually you will win. So I think this is a very smart.
So even if, let's say, I'm a graphic, let's take simpler. I'm a graphic designer.
Yes.
Do you recommend I work in a tech company versus, let's say, a non-tech company? Does that apply to me?
Again, I'm not the right guy for this for making a comment on that space. But maybe if you're a graphic designer, worth learning UI UX design of the new age apps
So the possibility of exposure
is
in a tech company or any edge company, would be such that you will grow more.
Exactly.
That's more than sufficient a reason.
Exactly.
Forget like what you do exactly with it.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes
But
sense.
hey, this is just a hypothesis, and we are all
Yeah,
evolving here.
yeah. No, got it, got it. No, so I think that's I had a lot of these questions and you've answered them really well. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. I had a lot of fun. Thank you.
And just for people who are watching, we're like technically he's the ghost. Sorry, I'm the host and he's the guest in this podcast. But right now we're sitting at his home. This beautiful looking chair is definitely not mine. This plant as green, my plants die sooner. This is definitely not mine again. And only because Pratik's wife is not here that we're able to do this. No, I'm just kidding. She's made a most beautiful possible house, and we just started off complimenting this place when we met. So she's been very kind to give this space for this podcast today, and we've had a lot of fun. Kafi, like we got free food also, amazing salad, Moroccan salad. So that went really well. But at the most importantly, all of that, I think you were very, very easy for me to approach, and you gave me this 1.5 hour slot.
My pleasure.
Which was the most I could have asked for. So thank you so much for that.
My pleasure.
I learned a lot, and anyone who's interested in learning more about the VC world and how it fits in the startup ecosystem and what do they need to do if any of us are in the middle of that decision making of what's right for me in this context. I hope it helps them out. So that's the thing. So thank you so much, Pratik, again. It was nice meeting you.
Thank you for your time and have fun. Bye.
Okay, thank you so much, guys. This was Nivedan from Coffee and Startups again, and we're going to bring in many more guests like Pratik, who are going to share such deep insights from their specialized fields of operation and interest. Like we're going to talk about so many more things. So stick around, and I'll see you in the next one.